Welcome to the Mothering with Jesus podcast, where we are real and raw about the ups and downs of motherhood and where we rally together to become the mothers that God intended us to be. This week's guest is Markell Horner. Markell is a wife, homeschooling mom of 3 little girls, and founder of Simply Stressless. As a certified professional organizer and life coach, she helps women simplify their homes and lives using her 4-step process: prioritize, minimize, organize, normalize. With training from the NAPO and the John Maxwell team, Markell guides women from feeling overwhelmed to confident and clear. She understands the stress, frustration, and anxiety that can come with running a household, but she also knows the transformation that happens when your environment begins to support your goals instead of working against them. As a homeschooling mom, she's passionate about creating spaces where everyone in the family can thrive. Her approach to minimalism and intentional living isn't about perfectionism. It's about building a home that serves your real life with peace, purpose, and possibility. I'm so excited for you to hear from her. She has amazing insights and a really great story for you about her last birth experience and how she almost died, and what she has learned and what she has changed in her life due to that experience. So let's dive in. As always, I will have Markell's Instagram and information linked in this podcast, and you can always text the podcast with any questions. Feel free to leave us a review if you are loving this podcast. It means a lot, and I hope you come back for more. This week's episode is brought to you by Oliveda. I have been using Oliveda, a waterless, clean skincare beauty brand, for 1.5 years now, and I absolutely love it. It has made drastic changes in my skin as far as hydration, fine lines, overall clarity, and brightness. It really has been a major game changer, and I know it will be for you too as well. Let me know if you ever need help deciding which products to get or how to get the best bang for your buck. You can shop using my link in the description of this video. Thanks so much for supporting me. Welcome, Markell. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're at in your motherhood, how many children you have?
Sure. Yeah. So I am 34 years old. Not 35 yet. I'm 34 years old. And I've got 3 little girls. So I have a
Oh,
7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So yeah, I'm kind of in like the thick of it, where they're not quite independent yet, but
yep.
everybody needs me, which is beautiful and hard.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, so I've got my
Right
3
there with
girls
you.
and yeah. And this is our first year homeschooling.
Okay, cool.
So I'm taking that on and tackling that, and that's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of growing pains, but
Yeah.
it's felt like the right decision for our family right now. So
Yeah. What brought you to homeschooling?
um my daughter just kind of had a hard time her first year of school. And I even well, I mean, I guess that this backstory goes back even further, but I had been doing a lot of research about education, and we were trying to get my daughter into an academy called Acton Academy.
Yep.
Have you heard of that?
I have. Yeah, we have one.
Okay.
Where are you located? I'm in St.
W-
George.
Okay, we're in American Fork.
Okay. Yeah, we have
Yeah.
one down here too.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So there's one in Provo, and then there's one like out in Harriman.
Mm-hmm.
And for first grade, we were trying to get her into one of these academies, and they were like, our wait list is like out of control, crazy.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, like it sounds like maybe you guys might just want to start your own. And me and my husband were like, oh, you can do that. And so we started doing all of this research, and we went through the first rounds of applications, and got into the second round of applications. And then I had my 3rd baby. And when I had her, it was like kind of a whole big mess. But I got an infection during delivery, and then I went septic. And then when they were trying to pump me full of a bunch of fluids to not go into septic shock, it enlarged my heart, and I went into heart failure. And so I just had like And that was all in like I think I spent a total of 10 days in the hospital. But the likelihood of my survival was really slim. And so that experience just kind of like blew up our world. We had a lot going on that year, and so we didn't get a chance to continue in that process to start our own academy. And so we sent her to the public school, and I already had some pretty strong ideas about how I wanted her to be educated, and I just felt like it just wasn't aligning. And so this last year we decided to bring her home and just try it. I'm not so connected to the idea of like it has to be this way. But it feels good right now, and so we're following that for right now. So that was kind of a long explanation, but
I love it.
But yeah, just kind of life circumstances and our experiences in the public school, and me not being kind of crazy about some of our interactions with teachers, and I get it. Like that would be hard to be over a class of 30 plus 6-year-olds. Like that sounds like a nightmare to me, and so I understand that they couldn't give her the attention that she was needing. So
I always say we homeschool as well. I have 4 little girls, and my oldest is almost 9.
Okay.
And we've been homeschooling. So I've got her and then a 6-year-old.
Okay.
And I've been homeschooling them since they started school, since they're kindergarten.
Yeah.
And I always say, you just choose your hard, right? Like there are things I absolutely love about homeschool, and it feels really right for our family, but you choose your hard because there is a lot of growing pains and a lot of just like kind of unschooling myself in the sense of like trying not to be stressed if they're behind and trying to actually tell myself that they're where they need to be and that I'm doing enough. And on the flip side, like trying to figure out the schedule with younger babies and getting it done every day, even though that can be really hard sometimes. And
and kind of being okay if it's not, if it's not done every day, if we don't stick to an absolutely strict schedule,
Exactly. Just like trusting that the process is working, even though it does look radically different than public school. And I don't know about you, but I grew up in public school. And so
Me too.
It's hard to, just the time alone, it's hard to think like, how can this match up? Because I'm not spending 8 hours a day sitting down with them. But then, they're right where they need to be when I like look at their peers and, compare. They're doing just fine.
Yeah. So what made you decide to do that? Because it sounds like you didn't have any experience in the public school system. So what made you decide to just do that from the start?
Yeah, actually, I have 2 older sisters who have homeschooled for years and years. They have like a few grown and married children. And so, watching my nieces and nephews just go through that whole process, and actually watching my 2 sisters, I always hoped that I wouldn't homeschool. 'Cause, they would be back and forth and telling each other how hard it was and sharing struggles and, passing ideas around. And it just sounded really, really exhausting. And so I hoped I wouldn't have to, but when it came time to send my oldest to school, I just had several experiences. I just like was looking into the school and just kind of felt uneasy. Not necessarily the school was bad at all or anything, just simply didn't feel quite right. I felt really nervous about like having her be gone that long. They had just changed kindergarten to full day everywhere. And so we couldn't even do a half day. And that just felt like, wow, that is so long to send this tiny person away. It has been glued to my hip for so many years. And then I don't know if you have seen the Instagram page of Red Brick Schoolhouse. I don't even know her name, honestly. But I like ran into her page, and then she was sharing this story of sending their first to school and how they just had this like big problem with her being in school. Like all of a sudden she came home and was like more sassy and just like her peers were meaning so much to her. And this was like a little kindergartner.
Mm-hmm.
And it certainly would not be this way with every child. But as I was listening to this story, like I just felt God tell me so strongly that like if I sent Brooklyn to school, that would have been our experience too.
Mm,
And she is very headstrong and independent and amazing. But like she definitely would have just clung to her friends, clung to her teachers, and not like given a crap about what me and my husband said, because like we already struggle to like maintain that like parent-child relationship, you know?
yeah. Yep. I
So
have some strong-willed daughters too, so I
yeah,
get that. I
it's
totally get that.
amazing, but it's challenging. Anyway,
Well,
I
good for
just
you
was
for
really,
following that gut feeling, you know?
yeah. Yeah, I just really felt like I said, that would not be the experience for every child.
Yeah.
But for us, that just was like, oh, wow, this is definitely not the direction that we need to head. And
Yes.
so, yeah, it's been great. It's been hard, but wonderful.
Yeah. All of it.
Yeah.
All of it wrapped in one. Yeah.
Yeah.
My experience has been the same.
Yeah.
So,
So tell us more about this third baby coming and what you've learned. I saw on your Instagram a little
hmm,
bit that you've radically changed some things in your life due to this
yeah.
experience. So let's hear all about it.
Wow. I mean, I don't even know how to like wrap it all into one short. I think that that's something that I'm still kind of coming to terms with.
For
But
sure.
yeah, but I think, I think that moment of facing my mortality at 32 years old, you know, it would be a paradigm shifter for anybody.
Yeah.
To be like, if this was it, like if that was done, did I did I live my life the way that I wanted to? Like, did I place emphasis on the things that mattered? Did I don't know, grow my relationships? Like, what are my girls going to remember about me? What kind of mom are they going to remember that I was? And not that I can't have my moments of weakness where I feel angry or overstimulated or frustrated, because like I wouldn't be human if I didn't feel that way sometimes. But yeah, it's just been a the last 2 years have been full of so much growth and so much healing. And um and I mean, I don't know, as I thought about it and wondered, is this like a punishment? Like am I being compelled to be humble because I wasn't willing to be humble? Like, is that what's going on here? I just had such a strong feeling of this is just life. These are the things that happen that are part of being in a fallen world and being mortal. And this wasn't punishment. But even though it's not punishment, it can be an incredible opportunity for me to grow.
Mhm.
And I really sunk my teeth in really deeply into where I was at spiritually, where I was at with my relationship with God and Jesus Christ, where I was at with my relationship with myself, where I
Mhm.
was at with my relationship with my body and with my family and my kids and my husband.
Mhm.
And I just have watched all of those relationships heal and blossom in the last 2 years that I don't think I ever could have um, anticipated or even thought like I need to grow in these areas. It just
Yeah.
it was a I think a beautiful opportunity for me to hand it over to the Lord and to
Mhm.
say, okay, like I'm so broken, like heal me.
Mhm.
Show me what can be fixed. Show me where I can see more light and I can feel more love. And I've watched, those relationships with all of those things with God and my trust in him and his timing and his plan and, you know, my relationship with my husband and with my kids. Like it slowed everything down for me
Mhm.
in such a beautiful way.
Mhm. I absolutely love that. It makes me think of the scripture where God talks about consecrating everything for our good, and
Mm,
how like you talked about taking, this is just life. It wasn't, like you said, God punishing you or anything like that. We just have hard times, and you chose to take it and turn to the Lord and learn and grow from it. And, I think the level at which we do that can vary depending on the trial and
Yeah.
and everything, and sometimes we don't take it to the Lord, and sometimes, like you say, we really delve into every aspect of our life and allow the situation to change us. And I think that's so powerful. I love how you said you asked God to show you more light and more love through the things that you were learning. So tell us a little bit more. What are some things that you have changed?
Yeah. So before I answer that, I loved that you pointed some of those things out, because I I do think that it was an offering kind of that I gave to him and allowed him to teach me. But I definitely went through my phases of anger too, and my phases of fear. I mean, I would not say that it was always light.
Yeah.
Like the moment that it happened, that I was like, this
All
is so
right.
beautiful. I get to run from it. It was like, all right, like I guess I'm done having babies. Like that part of my life was over. Like I didn't get to choose that.
Yeah.
Like it's too scary and it's too dangerous for me now. Um, and so like
And
I've
that's
gone
heavy, that's something you have to grieve over. And, we
totally.
talk a lot about just like, I absolutely love birth and having babies, but no matter how you do it, I think even if it goes smoothly, there is some degree of like processing it and going back over it and, like coming to peace with it. So, like,
Hmm.
when you have a really traumatic birth and where you almost die, I mean, that process, of course, just is so much bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. And it totally was, I mean, I had my moments of a lot of fear and a lot of anger, and I didn't know how to feel. I mean, I guess I would say that this was one thing that I learned to change was I didn't know how to feel multiple emotions at once. And
Hmm.
it made sense to me when people would say I like I feel like you see it all over social media. It's like this catchy phrase where it doesn't have to be or, it can be and.
Hmm.
Like it doesn't have to be one or the other, it can be both. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense, but to feel that inside of my body, I don't know how to do that.
Hmm.
And so, especially when it first happened, I would just like I would come home and everything like everything was so beautiful. Like I just felt this explosion of gratitude for everything. Like I would see a sunset and I would cry.
Mhm.
I would be up in the middle of the night feeding my baby and I would be like, I'm so glad I'm awake at 2 a.m. Like this is
Mhm.
the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And I coped a lot with just gratitude, just feeling so grateful, which is a beautiful coping mechanism. It's a good one to have,
Yeah.
better than some other ones. Um, but I also had a lot of feelings of fear and anger about some of these opportunities that I felt were taken from me, through this experience. And it got to the point about 5 months postpartum that I finally went to my OBGYN and I told them, like, I need help. Like, I feel so angry and I'm taking it out on my family. Like,
Mhm.
I can feel myself like boiling over and yelling at my husband and snapping at him. And like, I can't even handle my kids. Like, I can't be around them. I feel zero peace in my
Mhm.
life and I need help.
Mhm.
And I started going to a therapist who's phenomenal. I mean, I absolutely love her. She's changed my life. And after I started doing some therapy, my husband was like, maybe she could help me too. And I was like, she totally could, because I went through something scary, but so did you.
Yeah.
Like he became single dad to 3 kids. Like my baby went home after 2 days in the hospital. And
Ugh.
I was in the hospital and transferred to like a thoracic ICU, like a super intensive specialized care unit.
Okay.
And I couldn't see my kids for like multiple days. And so he became single dad, wife is in the hospital, brand new baby at home, right?
Yeah.
And I wasn't in a position to like pump. And so breastfeeding was off the table. So all of a sudden we became, needing formula and all of these things that we weren't anticipating.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so sorry, that was kind of a little bit of a tangent, but needless to say, like that was, I started seeing this therapist, and my husband started seeing her as well. And as we've kind of gone through this healing journey, we've been able to heal a lot of parts of ourselves that have been broken, that we've been able to open up about, and it's improved our relationship with each other, and it's improved our relationship with our kids. And I think it's opened my heart to not always not having my beliefs so concrete, if that makes sense, where it's more fluid, where I feel like before I took in my experiences and created a belief and was like, this is how the world is.
Yeah.
And now I'm much more open to, like, God, these are kind of some thoughts that I have, and this is how I see this situation. Like, is this real?
Yeah.
Is this true? Like, if there's something that I'm missing or something that is off, like, will you teach me? And he has taught me, and he has changed my mind and my heart about a lot of things that I used to think I knew that this thing was true. If that makes sense.
Definitely. Yeah, I love that. I've never gone to a therapist, but I absolutely love that it's becoming less taboo and that people are talking about it more, especially like within the gospel, because previously, there was well, just pray harder and you'll feel better, but
Yeah.
like God truly gives us people and, like God made therapy. You know what I mean? Like he knows all the techniques, and he knows our bodies and everything. And so it's so neat to hear that you've learned so much from that. Like I said, I've never done therapy. I have done just some life coaching stuff. And I would say that has felt really similar with like my mindset shifts about, like I was saying to my husband just the other day, it's like the older I've gotten, the more I just feel like I know nothing. Not in a bad way, but just in the sense that like my mind is so much more open to other people's experiences, and recognizing that like my experience, just like you said, isn't facts or isn't like perfectly like truth. One thing my dad always said growing up, which was really helpful as well with this mindset, is he just always said there's always two sides to the story, and then there's the truth. And I just think it's so helpful to view everything in life like that, not necessarily just disagreements, but just like you said, going to the Lord and being like, okay, bless me with the gift of discernment. Like, what's really happening here? How do you want me to feel about this situation? Because, maybe with me and my emotions and my thoughts, I'm like making it a 10 when it's a 1. And he'll just like calm your heart and be like, okay, let's think about this logically.
Yes. Yeah. And even you may even be thinking about it logically and what logically makes sense to you, but there might be a perception or a way of viewing it that's different,
Yeah.
not necessarily wrong, but different,
Yeah.
And I do feel like one of the biggest parts of me, that has healed in all of this was my need to seek validation in my productivity. Because when you go through health challenges, or even when you're going through something that's really hard and very emotionally or mentally draining, somebody you love is going through something very hard, you need time to slow down and to process that. And I couldn't achieve at the same level that I used to achieve before all of this happened. My body was forcing me to stop. My body was forcing me to slow down. My body was forcing me to sit. And that is not comfortable for me. I don't like that. I love having a to-do list, and it makes me feel good when I check things off of a to-do list. And so this idea of being able to find my productivity or my worth in something outside of my productivity was like paradigm shifter for me,
Yeah. 100%. Tell us a little bit more about how, like, what things maybe have you given up specific things? Obviously, you're homeschooling. Are there things you've said no to? I I love this chat because the world, like, is just telling us to do more and more and more and more. Put your kid in music and sports and every little thing under the sun, and you need to care about your health. And like, there's just so much that you can care about. How do we do
Yeah.
it?
Oh man, if I had the answer, I would tell you. Man, I wish I had the secret sauce, but um I don't know. I would say I'm just more comfortable with the idea of there being times and seasons for everything,
Mhm,
and letting go of the idea that like I have to control everything right now in this moment.
mhm,
Um, as I've spent more time the last year in the scriptures, and I've learned more about Jesus Christ and his atonement and the true purpose behind it, I just feel like I'm going to be okay, because in my brain I always have this list of things to do, or I get really obsessed with personal growth, or I'm not reaching my potential, or I could be doing more, I could be giving more, I could have
yeah,
more things in my life more efficient, right?
mhm,
And that just made it so clear to me, if I'm trying and I'm repenting and I'm continuing to turn back to God and to give him my time and my attention, and to strive to live the gospel with a pure and honest heart. And I feel like it's taken the pressure off of me to constantly do more and to be more, and allow those things to flow out of me instead of grinding to make it work. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
I hate that phrase, like, oh, this is the grind. And it's like, yeah, grinding isn't good. That's not the way that gears are meant to work,
yeah, yeah,
right? Like if it's grinding, that's not a good thing. And
yeah,
so, I feel like I've just been more comfortable with allowing there to be seasons, and
yeah,
to say that this is a season right now where I'm really, really focused on my children,
mhm,
and when I need to focus on, for me, like those little things that I can do that are truly important, that
mhm,
truly lift me up, that truly fill my soul. And if I can get those little snippets in, like, it's okay. There will be another time in my life when I get a lot of time to myself.
yeah,
And I'll wish I was right back here with
yeah.
little babies running everywhere, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I love that. I think it is so important to recognize the seasons, and especially with social media and everybody's lives kind of being out there. It can be really hard to be in a slower season and watching, someone on social media or even around you, siblings and friends in a different season. They're more in like a progress push season, growth season. It
Hmm.
can be really hard to sit in like your slow season.
Yeah.
But just like you said, as we turn to God and he shows us what he wants from us in whatever season we're in, then you do end up doing the needful things, and you can feel peace and you can feel progress, even though you may have slowed down, or even though the progress might not look like the way you had hoped.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it can just be hard to accept slow seasons. After
Yeah.
babies, I I had my fourth, and before I had this one, um, I definitely hadn't slowed down after a baby previously. Like, I was so excited to have the baby out of me that I just like would be at Costco with my mom like one day later, just like, yes, I'm free.
I got it out of me.
um,
Now back to my normal life.
yeah.
Yeah.
And this last time, my midwife was like, okay, you have to lay down, like, you have to let everybody do everything for you for 2 weeks so that you don't end up with postpartum depression and postpartum rage or anxiety.
Yeah.
And with my third, I had had quite a bit of anxiety. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to make myself do this. But it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I think especially when I mean, I don't know if you're this way, but I would always pride myself on my independence, right?
Yeah.
And so then when you have a moment where you become dependent upon other people, it's like, who even am I anymore?
Yeah, and you
Like,
just, like, feel bad and uncomfortable and
yeah, yeah. So yeah, that I think that that has been a huge shift for me too, is like I always envisioned myself as the one who could always take care of myself and was constantly serving other people. And the last couple years, like there have been so many people, family members, parents, siblings, neighbors who have rendered so much service to me and my family.
Yeah.
And it just like I guess I've grown in my gratitude for my community.
Mhm.
And that like someday I'll be back on top again. Someday I'll be back in the position to serve and to give to other people. And I think that I'll do it with even more, I don't know, even a better purpose of heart, right?
Mhm.
Like, like Jesus Christ says, like, don't let your left hand see what your right hand is doing.
Mhm.
I think before I really wanted it to be for people to recognize, like, man, like Markell's really helpful, or Markell, really gives a lot, or
Yeah.
she's like there the moment somebody needs something. And I think my motives for a lot of things have been purified in the sense of I don't need the recognition. I don't need my left hand, right? My worldly hand to see what my right hand is doing. Like I don't need the recognition anymore. Like I want to do it because I want to give to other people. I want to help the hands that hang weary,
Mhm.
and I don't need to do that for me to be seen of other people. I want
Yeah.
to do it because I want to. And so yeah, that's been kind of a purifying experience.
God is gonna take us through the refiner's fire no matter what, and help us to become who we need to be. And, you hear people all the time say like, "Oh, I went through XYZ," and, it sounds terrible, but they're like, "Well, I wouldn't trade it." Because it literally makes you who you are. And as hard as it is to go through those things, it's just like you were saying, feeling the two emotions at the same time. Um, like it truly can be so hard and so peaceful at the same time, or, so sad, but also joyous. And it is really interesting. I like going back. I really liked how you talked about um, learning how to feel two things in your body at once. And I think it's just really fascinating because I don't think we were necessarily taught that way, or had thought of things in that way. I listened to I'll have to find it and put it in the show notes, but it was this talk by someone that I also don't know his name. But he has like a podcast and has done Come Follow Me stuff. And in this one like fireside he gave, he talks all about contraries, which is this idea that,
Is it
two contradicting things can be true.
is it
And it
Jared
is,
Halverson?
yes, I think
He's
so.
my favorite. He's my
It is
favorite.
so good. Yeah,
Proving
and
contraries.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and it is so good. Like I said, I will link it, but it is really powerful, especially if you're like going through a faith crisis, like just that mindset of like two contrary ideas can be true at the same time.
Yeah,
Super powerful.
yeah,
Love
yeah.
that.
And
Anyway.
I think like I feel like me and my husband were talking about this on our way home from St. George's last weekend. Was like if everybody could figure out how to feel that, like that two conflicting things can be true at the same time.
Mhm.
Like our world would have so much less fighting and anger and upheaval. It's
Yeah.
just being able to make space for two things that are contradictory to be true at the same time,
Mhm.
and everybody's on some spectrum somewhere in the middle of those two things, that
Mhm.
I don't know, we're all on that same continuum. It's just some of us need to come a little further to the right and some a little further to the left for us
Mhm.
to all meet in the middle, but
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, it can be so neat. It makes me think of like just the talk online about the new garments and how it's crazy. Like I posted a few videos about them and I just have like grandmas who appear to be active, just like and just
mhm.
saying all sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
And it's just like is blowing my mind about just where everybody is on the spectrum, like you're talking about, just
Yeah.
like what they are thinking, and how everybody can feel so differently about it. But it is
Yeah.
interesting because I really just feel like that's fine. Like we can all feel totally different about it. And it totally makes sense that, someone who was maybe shamed growing up and, had these certain experiences would feel this way, or ex members would feel a certain way because of the way they viewed everything.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I don't know, I feel like you can hold so much space and so much compassion for those people that were like, I really wanted to follow Jesus and I felt like I was shamed for the way that I was dressed or,
Yeah.
whatever. And I do, because that's interesting that you would bring up just this topic, because that specific topic came up as well when we were kind of discussing this idea. And my husband tends to be a little bit more on like I don't understand why this is hard for you. Like, I don't get it, and
Yeah.
I was like, it's probably more an issue with women, right? Because
Yeah.
I feel like, especially when we were growing up, like modesty was more a focus on the women, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But we
Very
were
different
kind
guidelines.
yeah, and we were kind of having this discussion about like, that's so interesting that like even for the strength of youth is like changing in saying we're no longer giving you like specific rules to be following. What we're trying to do is constantly just point you to Jesus Christ and to
Yep.
have you hear him. So these rules or these things that we had set up before were an effort. Were I believe that the idea was we're trying to give you rules to help you follow so that you can like be better prepared to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. But apparently now these things are becoming distractions. So instead of listing do's and don'ts, we're now just going to point you to Jesus Christ and to have
Mhm.
you refer to him, right? And it's that same shift that happened from like the 613 laws of Moses that
Mhm.
was like, you have to do X, Y, and Z, where it was in an effort to get people to have a relationship with you with God, right?
Yep.
But sometimes at some point that became a distraction. That
Yeah.
became the solid thing, that
Mhm.
was like, you have to wear shirts with sleeves or you don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ.
Mhm.
And now it just seems like it's like, yeah, we're not going to give you solid, strict do's and don'ts anymore. Like, please just figure out how you hear him and you stay connected to him and wear your garments, whether the sleeve goes to here or whether the sleeve goes to here. Wear your garments because you care about putting on the protection of that Christ has to offer you, because
Yeah.
you care about your relationship with him.
Mhm.
So if they changed the garments and they were like, they're going to be long sleeve for everybody, I would be like, man, that really sucks, but I'll do it because I care about my relationship with Jesus Christ.
Mhm.
So,
That'd be wild.
yeah, I know it totally would. And I'm sure that, I mean, I probably would be like, oh, dang it. Especially in St.
Can
George.
I
It's like,
pull
that's
them up
really
when I'm hot?
a tiny bit. Yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like we're getting so distracted with all of these rules that are so arbitrary and people try to make it a bigger deal than it is. And it truly is just comes down to your covenant connection to him.
Yes. Okay. Wow. I loved the way you put all of that, because often when we talk about the law of Moses, then we talk about the higher law. And um, although that may be true, I just really liked your phrasing of like it became a distraction. And, garments have become such a point of judgment, and I think
Yeah,
that's why so many people are just flying off the handle on social media,
yeah.
because it has been like you are a bad person
Hmm.
if you're not wearing your garments, or wow, that person's not wearing their garments right now and it's obvious, and just so much judgment happening. And I'm guilty of it. Just like you said, it becomes a distraction. We're not focused on the people and what they're doing and how they're feeling, and we're just like, oh, they don't have their garments on and they must be having a faith crisis. And
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Whatever thoughts you might have
Yeah.
consciously or
Yeah.
unconsciously.
And I
But
can't deal with someone else having a faith crisis because then somehow it's threatening to my belief. Right.
exactly.
And so now I
Exactly.
need to attack their disbelief because I'm uncomfortable with just sitting in my belief and letting my belief and my connection to God be enough and to
Yeah.
be okay. Like I don't need everybody else around me to believe it, to validate it that it's true for me.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's true for me because of my connection with him and my experiences that I've had with him, you know? So I feel like when we see other people step away from the church, it feels like a threat
Mm-hmm.
to us. And it's totally not. Like they're
Right.
on sacred ground too, you
Yeah.
know? Like the times in my life when I stepped away from the church, like from like 18, 19, 20,
Mm-hmm.
I was not active
Mm-hmm.
at all. And had a really, really strong impression in a few series of events where God told me, like, I need you to serve a mission. And I was like, God, people like me do not serve missions. Like, do you see what I'm doing? Like, people like me they don't go on missions, you know? That was a very long and humbling process to get to that point. And I had to change a lot of things, you know, but I think that it gave me so much more compassion for people who are going through hard things because actually, for me, stepping away from the church for a time, I could feel the stark difference.
Mm-hmm.
And when I made the choice to come back, that was my choice.
Mm-hmm.
That was 100% a decision that I was owning, you know? So I think, you know, I'm a little bit more comfortable with watching people walk away or step away and to just say, this is sacred ground for you.
I
And
love that.
whether you choose to let Christ walk you through with you through that or not, like
Mhm.
he's going to be faithful to you,
Yeah.
whether you're faithful to him or not.
Yeah. That's so beautifully said. I've definitely felt before as well that like when if people are not happy inside of the church, and are truly, maybe caught up too much in the perfectionism, and it is bringing like a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, like they're choosing to have all of these feelings, that like stepping away for a time could be the best thing,
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, everybody does their own thing. Maybe they step away for the rest of their life, and that's okay too. But I really loved the way you phrased all of that. It's sacred ground for them. That was beautifully said. And that we don't have to make it about us, and we don't have to make it scary to us, and that we can still be friends and have close relationships with people no matter where they're at, and we can still be next to Christ while we're being their friend.
I totally agree. And it takes practice,
Yeah.
right? Like that, you know, that didn't come easily to me either. You know, I had really important people in my life step away from the church at big moments in my life. And so that was like a learning curve and a learning process for me too,
Yeah.
to allow them to have their own journey and to just love them through that. Like that
Yeah.
wasn't always easy, you know, and sometimes it still isn't, you know, because we have differing beliefs on a lot of things, but I think when you can have differing beliefs but still have a mutual respect and a mutual love for each other, like there can still be so much love there and
Yeah.
so much peace there, even when you're on opposite ends of the spectrum, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. All beautiful. I've loved everything we've talked about so far. It's been so powerful and awesome. Thank you for sharing everything.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit. You sent me this beautiful blog post about Mary and Martha, and let's delve into this. Kind of goes back to the slowing down a little bit. Um, Tell us what you've learned as you've studied these few verses about Mary and Martha.
Yeah. Yeah. So this has been an intense labor of love. I don't think I've ever like spent more time studying 5 verses in my entire life.
I love
Like,
it. And I will have the blog
yeah,
post linked in the show notes too. For
yeah, yeah. Like I don't know. I learned so much about myself and so much about God and His patience and um, I don't know. Is there anything in particular that stood out to you that you're like, I would love to touch base on this point, or do you want me to just kind of give like Do you want me to read some of the scriptures? Do you want me to give a general overview?
Yeah, maybe let's just give a general overview, and then I did screenshot a part I especially loved.
Okay.
So just give us an idea of
Sure.
what the post is about.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll kind of go into the context of it. So this particular scripture, I feel like often gets looked at because it's the 5 scriptures after the parable of the Good Samaritan. And which is like, the more I understand the historical context, that parable is just beautiful. It is so good. But then there's these short 5 scriptures that describe a brief interaction between Martha, Mary, and Jesus. That I think is just like one of the most beautiful sermons on women and women being seen by Jesus Christ, that like in my years that I've studied the scriptures, this one is just so good and has so much more meaning now that I've become a mom.
Mhm.
So maybe I'll just read the 5 scriptures really
Yep.
quick, and then we can go into some different parts of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is in Luke 10:38. Sorry, Luke 10:38 through 42. And it says, "Now it came to pass that as they went, that he entered into a certain village, and a certain woman named Martha received him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, which also sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word. But Martha was cumbered about much serving, and came to him and said, Lord, dost thou not care that my sister hath left me to serve alone? Bid her therefore that she help me. And Jesus answered and said unto her, Martha, Martha, thou art careful and troubled about many things, but one thing is needful, and Mary hath chosen that good part, which shall not be taken away from her." And so I think, I mean, as we look at this story, all of us are kind of more naturally either a Martha or a Mary. And one isn't necessarily wrong, but it's good to just kind of be aware of which one that you are. And Martha, what I love about her is she is so service oriented, right? Like she is the definition of a good hostess. She brings everybody into her home. And I feel like whenever we see pictures of this, it's always just like Mary, Martha, and Jesus. It's just the 3 of them in the room. But I feel like the more I study the scriptures, I'm like, Jesus was like never alone. Like he always had a group of people with him all of the time. And so Martha receives all of these people into her home, right? Who are
Yeah.
with Jesus to take care of them, basically to take care of all of their physical needs. She's cumbered about much serving, is what the scriptures say. She's overloaded with responsibility. She's let's see, what are some of the definitions of cumbered about? Because I love these. Distracted by all the preparations. The Greek root of the word means to pull or to draw around. This could be physically dragging something around you, or you are dragged around by something. Distracted or drawn away, overwhelmed with responsibility, to overload, burden, weigh down, become overoccupied, distracted, distressed, or hindered. I feel like that definition is me, like every day of my life. I am cumbered about every single day, right? With all of these things that I have to do. I'm maintaining a home, I'm cooking meals, I'm teaching my kids, like I'm running kids to sports and all of these things. And so there's in this particular moment, Martha is cumbered about much serving. She's feeling very torn to take care of the physical needs of everybody in this party, to get them food and water and shelter.
Yeah. And if we've hosted anything, like even if it's like 2 guests, like we've all felt those feelings of like distracted by everything there is to do, like you're trying to make it a good experience for everybody else. You're not really participating very much in like the actual activity. You're just trying to be there to make sure everything runs smoothly.
Exactly. Like you're the one creating this experience for everybody, right?
Yeah.
And how often do we get to sit down and experience the experience with everybody, right? Because you are just stuck serving. And so I love that she goes to Jesus and she says, like, do you not care that my sister isn't helping me? Like, make her come and help me. Like, if she would come and help me, I could probably sit down and listen. Like, if she would come and help me, everybody would get served faster. If she would come and help me, that this could be done. And which kind of implies that at one point Mary had been serving alongside Martha, but stopped to sit at Jesus's feet, which was a very unusual place for a woman to sit at the time, right? To become a disciple or a student of the teacher, right?
Right. And like you painted the picture of probably all of his disciples were there. So like you think about like, all these men, just like you said, in this large group learning from Jesus. And definitely at the time that would have been peculiar for Mary to sit there with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that she's sitting down at his feet. She figured out how to stop, how to listen, right? And how to learn from him. But Martha is still cumbered about. And when you think about when you're feeling frustrated, when you're cumbered about much serving, when you're running in a million different directions and you want help from somebody, whether it's your kids, whether it's your husband, like, how do you ask for help? Like when
Everybody
you're,
help me.
yeah,
Like
pick up your shoes.
disaster.
Exactly. Right. I do the same thing. Like I'm not trying to call anybody out. Like if anything, I'm calling myself out, because when I need love and help and I have a need, I'm not the best at expressing calmly that I need help, And I love that she's going to Jesus and she's saying, Jesus, I'm all alone. Like I'm taking care of everybody else's physical needs. I'm making sure that everybody has what they need. Like, can you not sense that I have a need? Can you not sense that I need support? Can you not sense that I need an extra pair of hands to try to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish? And it's truly a cry out, I think, to Jesus and to Mary to be seen, right? Two people who know Martha better than anybody in that entire room. And I love that that there's this cry for help, that she needs help. And then when you think of the way that Jesus responds to her by saying her name twice. And I love it was a podcast by Jared Halverson where he explained think of all the ways that he could have said her name twice. It could have been like quiet the first time and then louder the second time because she didn't hear. It could have been annoyed the first time and then angry the second time. It could have been, really slow and then fast, or fast and then slow, changing the different, like when you read it, changing the way that he says it changes the way that you perceive he's talking to her, right? Like the way that he's feeling when he's talking to her. And I like to envision that he just like says it slow and lovingly and looking into her eyes to let her know she's being seen. Martha, I see you. This is a lot going on. This is a lot to do. But when he points out, like, you are careful and troubled about many things, right? Like you are, feeling a little bit of urgency is good, but feeling overly anxious, feeling overwhelmed, like feeling too much of those things before you're asking for help. When you've reached your breaking point and that's the moment you ask for help, you're past the point where you should have asked for help. Yeah. Like you should not have reached that breaking point. I love that he just is acknowledging her, like, I see you and you're so worried about so many things. Some different words for careful and troubled, worried and upset, anxious and troubled, worried and bothered, worry or fuss over all these details. Like those are all different translations and different versions of the Bible. We obviously use the King James version. But yeah, I think it just gives you so much insight into Martha. Like she's overly anxious about too much of this. Yeah. And he's just trying to tell her, of all of these things that you're worried about, one thing is needful, and you have chosen the good part, not the better part, right? Because both things were good. Yeah. Right? But she's chosen that good part to stop, to slow down, to sit, to listen. Like it's teaching that Mary that there's a time it's teaching Martha that there's a time for tasks and there's a time to focus on people and relationships. There's a time to serve and there's a time to sit. There's a time to work and there's a time to worship. Right? There's a time to create experiences and there's a time to experience experiences. And we have to learn how to flow between the two, which is hard, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm way more naturally a Martha. Like I told you, like I love checking things off my list. I love getting things done. And that has been a huge shift for me in the last couple of years, where it's like when my kids are watching a show where they say, Mom, like, will you come snuggle me? Will you come hold me? It's like, absolutely, the dishes can wait. I can't wait to hold you.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to snuggle you. Right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's learning that there needs to be a balance.
Yeah. So hard. I'm just thinking, I just have been trying to be more present, more grateful, more just like settled in my motherhood. And because I definitely find myself being like Martha frequently. And it is really interesting to feel that pull because, you're like right in the middle of something, like you said, the dishes, or you're folding laundry. And, then people start fighting and they're like, Mom, I need this, and they're just like going off on each other. And you're just like, I can't deal with that right now. I'm trying to finish this. I've been trying to finish this 10 times.
Yeah.
And it can be really hard to just be like, okay, this is more important. One quote that comes to mind is President Monson. Obviously years ago, because he's passed away, but years ago he said that a problem to be solved isn't as important as a person to be loved. And that one plays through my mind frequently, just to try to help myself be in the right headspace
Yeah.
and come back to being present. Because like all day as moms, I feel like, again, I guess going back to Martha, it's like all day you're the host. Like all day you're just trying to like move the ship forward, get people where they need to go, get the chores done, um, and just like run through all the things. For me, I have this list and it's not very long. It's maybe like 5 or 6 things that like I really have to accomplish every day, just like a load of laundry, the dishwasher, and doing school with both of my girls, getting the baby to her nap,
Mm-hmm.
and getting in my scripture study and my exercise. And it's like and then the meals, of course, feeding everybody. And it's like those few things, like there's just not room for anything else. And if I don't keep the ship moving forward, then one of those things doesn't happen. And there is this really tricky balance between stopping, because those things have to be done, like especially when people are at like your and my stage of motherhood, where like they have to eat, like our clothes have to be washed. And it is no fun when you do let some of those things go. Like it's not fun to live in a house that isn't, moderately tidy. I would definitely not say I have a perfectly clean home, but um like it's just not fun to not pick up at the end of the day and just let one day's mess turn into the next day's mess, and it all piles up, right? So like these things are so important, and I really truly feel like it is it's just really hard trying to figure out being Mary and being Martha, because they're both important. And obviously being a disciple and being at Jesus' feet is the most important, and that can bleed into your tasks of Martha. But it's just really hard to like figure it out, that balance. I don't know. Like I said, I just have a tendency to just kind of be like, let's go, let's go, let's go, people.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a question. Like when you find that, because you said you have like a short list of things that need to be done every day. When you find that your day is getting too full, what are the things that you choose to like tick off the list? That you're like, I guess it's not absolutely necessary if these things don't get done.
Definitely sometimes we'll like go out to eat for dinner instead of making dinner, and that can feel really helpful. And in the morning, like I'll forego my walk. I usually try to exercise and walk, and I'll forego my walk. And maybe instead of like opening my scriptures, I'll listen to my scriptures. I would say I'm probably not very good at letting anything, like any of those things, because I would definitely say that like if I finish all those tasks that like I have deemed as important for us right now, um, like if I let go of one of those, then by the end of the day, it's not necessarily that I feel like a failure, because I feel like I don't shame myself a lot. But I definitely just feel like, oh, bummer. Like I wish I would have gotten that done. Like I just feel good. That's like my list of like, I feel good when those things are done. Like I feel like we've focused on the things that I want to be focusing on at this time in my life.
Yeah. Okay, so I love hearing kind of your brain work through that because for the longest time in my brain, it was like scripture study is gone, my quiet time is gone, and my shower is gone.
Mhm.
Like those are the things that I would tick off the list, and it left me just absolutely depleted.
Yeah, just
Like absolutely depleted. And so I love that you seem to have a very strong sense of like these are the important things that do not go out the window. Okay, if I need to do 2 loads of laundry tomorrow, like that's fine. If the clothes sit on my bed for a day and a half, like okay, like we can dig through a pile of clothes, right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
like my connection and my time with God, like my time with my body, with myself, like making myself feel good, maybe getting a shower in, like those things are non-negotiables for me.
yeah,
Because I think sometimes when we put these things on our list that are we consider to be non-negotiables, or we consider to be needful, but they're cyclical tasks, they're never going to be done.
yeah,
Right? Like your dishes are never fully done. Your laundry is never fully done. Your cleaning is never fully done, because the moment that you wash a load of laundry, like somebody else is getting their laundry dirty. Like the
yeah.
moment you tidy up your house, your 2-year-old is walking around and that house is tidy pretty fast.
Really bad.
Right? And
Incredibly bad.
that's so frustrating as a mom to be like, I just put so much time and effort into this thing and you just ruined it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, but like when you put the little bit of time and effort into that thing that gives back, the thing that is truly needful, that good part, your connection with Jesus, sitting at the master's feet, that will give you back tenfold energy than making sure your dishes got done would.
Yeah.
Right. And so I love that you have this list, but I think being able to say like bottom line, like if some of those things don't get done today, like we're going to be all right. And maybe that means I need to ask my husband for help tomorrow.
Yeah.
Maybe that means before we go to bed, I need to say to him, laundry's been sitting. Can we talk? Can we watch our favorite show? And can we fold laundry together? Like, this is what I need from you.
Yeah.
This would help me so much. And so that may mean that you're going to start to maybe, and I don't know what your dynamic is, right? Like what your dynamic is like in your marriage, right? But sometimes that means stepping out of our comfort zone and asking other people for help with some of those daily tasks, those cyclical tasks. But the only person that can forge a relationship between you and God, or you and your husband and you and your kids, that's you.
Yeah.
You're the only one that can do that. Everything else can be outsourced. It can be pushed off.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, I love that.
But building those relationships, like that should kind of be your anchor. Like you're set. This is a non-negotiable. And so, if I'm not showing, which is one of the reasons why I went and did therapy, because I was like, I'm not showing up in a way that I feel good about for my husband and for my kids. Like I am on edge and I feel like I have a bomb in my chest that's going to go off any second because I can't keep it together.
Yeah.
And so to be able to go and to say, I need to know how to fix and to build these relationships, because that to me is number one most important. And maybe that means like my house falls off the wagon a little bit right now. Like I would trade that to make sure that I have a solid, good relationship with them and a good relationship with God. So, I mean, I would say like that was one of the shifts that I made, was like my mornings became really important, became a connection time for me with God. Like I also love to do walks, because that was kind of like the only physical activity I could do, right? Like I didn't trust my body to go running. I didn't trust my body to go play soccer. I didn't know how my heart would handle that. And so I would walk every single day and listen to podcasts, you
Yeah.
know? And it was like, that became my me time. That became my connection time. That became the time that I would think through things or conversations with God or, like, and, and it was okay that I wasn't automatically waking up and trying to cook somebody else's breakfast. And, it was like, we'll be back at 8 o'clock and I will take care of everything from there. But I need to create some sacred space for myself. I need to hold
Yep.
space for myself. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think maybe things just get out of whack when we're taking the wrong things off the checklist. Right?
Yep.
When we're saying, I
Yeah.
don't have time to sit. I don't have time to worship. I don't have time to connect with God. Like you need that. That is needful. That is a needful thing.
It's kind of like the full cup analogy. Obviously, you have to fill up your cup, but like even more beautiful. Like, I feel like this is taking it to the next level. Yeah, there are many wonderful things, but only one thing is needful. In your blog post, I screenshotted this part that I liked. It just said, "You may feel pulled between your roles and identities: wife, mother, sister, daughter, employee, friend, whatever calling in the church. Those identities are important and you can do so much good in them. But your most important, the one that truly is needful, is being a disciple of Jesus Christ." Just like you're saying, when we can really get our priorities straight and we put that first, it helps everything fall into place. I have, for the last like 20 days, I've been trying to get up before my children. And if you're a homeschool mom, you know how crazy the day is. Like, I've never been a public school mom, but it is interesting to just literally have your children there all day, and it is the pro and it is the con to
You
homeschooling.
literally never have a moment to yourself. Yeah,
They
you can't
are
run to the
always
store.
there.
Yeah, can't run to the store when your kids are in school or playing at the
Exactly.
neighbors. It's like, yeah,
Or
they're always with
or
you.
just quickly clean up the house, just like you're saying.
Yeah.
Literally, you have a child walking behind you, undoing what you are doing.
Yeah.
It makes you feel insane.
hmm
But again, it's the pro. This is what we're choosing, and I wouldn't unchoose it. But you have to figure out how to make it work. And, over the years, I've always taken the time to exercise. Usually my little ones are crawling all around me or asking to nurse while I'm doing sit-ups. And, they just think, great, like mom's playing with us. And I've been fairly consistent with like my scripture reading. It's so nice that we can listen to them. Over the years, I've gotten up before them or just done it first thing in the morning. Anyway, but I've never had like any sort of like very strict schedule, but those have like always just been important things on my list. And probably a good 6 or 8 months ago, I felt God just being like, wake up before your children. It will be lovely and helpful for you. And I just kept pushing it off and pushing it off and feeling like it was going to be too hard. I have a 2-year-old. She still nurses and she still wakes up in the night. And um, it is just really hard to get up before children. Anytime I've tried it previously, they just wake up with me, right? We've all done that trick where like you get up at 6 and then they're up at 6 and you're like, no.
You're like, you never do this. Why are you doing this on the day I woke up at 6? Or you have it in your plan and you're like, I'm going to do this. And then you're like, I was awake for 3 hours in the middle of the night. Like, of course that would happen on the day that I planned to wake up early. How dare you?
Exactly.
Yeah. Why do I even make plans?
Exactly. But, it was kind of cool this time. I felt like God had kind of been putting it in my soul for a long time. And then I've decided to do it in like a much looser way. It's not like you have to get up at 6 or it didn't count. It just has been like, I'm going to shoot for 6. And if my baby's nursing right then and I have to help her fall asleep, like this morning, my alarm went off and I tried to sneak out of bed, but then she woke up. And so then I nursed her back to sleep and then tried to sneak out of bed. And then she woke up again. And and so I think I wasn't up until 6:45, but I laid there in bed and I read my scriptures from my bed, and then I got up, and then my other little 4-year-old was up with me. But like, I'm still counting it because I'm still just getting up and doing those things that I want to do, and the effort is still 100% there. Like, I'm doing the best with where I am in my season, even though I don't even know, maybe only 50% of the time it's working out that I'm actually up by myself. It really is making such a huge difference to have that in first. It's like the Relief Society lesson where you have all the big rocks and you put them in the vase, and then you fill in like the sand and stuff to make everything work out. I would say that's a good representation of how I've felt. Is like, I've always exercised and I've always done my scriptures, but I've just done it like here and there where I could. Some days it wasn't till 4 o'clock that I got my exercise in, or I wasn't reading my scriptures until bedtime. But I just have switched it so that very first I'm putting in those big rocks, the truly needful things. And then it is just helping me to feel so much more grounded, and I would say like peaceful about moving forward with the day. It's like, okay, you know, I've listened to my podcast, I've read my scriptures, and I've gotten my exercise in. Even if I was helping people in between, that part hasn't changed necessarily depending on the day.
Yeah.
But like, I honestly, I don't even know what the major difference is, but it just has felt like I'm grounded more, and it just is helping me to feel more peaceful and present with my motherhood. I'm less apt to, be like Martha and be like, everything's on fire,
Yeah. I love that you kind of brought up this point too of like, maybe your expectations aren't so rigid on what that has to look like.
Yeah, because
Right.
I've definitely been like black and white. Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting up at this time, I'm sitting down, I'm opening my scriptures, I'm journaling, I'm marking, I'm using stickers. Like, this is going to be a beautiful event.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going to go the same way every morning. And
Yeah.
like, and if it's not going to go that way, then I'm not even going to put in the effort to make it
Yeah.
happen. Because if I'm not up by 6, then it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Then I failed it anyway. So why am I even trying?
Exactly.
But yeah, so I love that it kind of seems like you've like kind of created a little bit more of a looser definition on what your expectation is for how those mornings should go. And sometimes some mornings look a little bit different than others, but like you said, your effort is 100% there. Like that's an intentional decision that you're making to invite Jesus Christ into your life and to ground yourself before you go out and tackle the day. And so I love that it just was kind of this switch to, I'm going to be intentional about this, and if it doesn't go 100% the way that I want it to every day, that's okay. And I think that if we could kind of embrace that in our homes, like motherhood wouldn't feel like such a chore, and it wouldn't feel like such a huge responsibility that we have to carry all by ourselves. One of the practices that me and my husband have kind of developed in the last couple of months that has been so helpful for me, because I think my expectation for the longest time was like, I had this idea because I'm kind of in the minimalism, organizing, decluttering world, right? Like that's what I do for work. That's the kind of coach that I am, and I help people through that. And in my head, on all of these other accounts, it's been floating around of like, put your house to bed every night. Have you seen people talk about this?
Yep. The food nanny years ago.
Yeah.
I heard her talk about putting your kitchen to bed specifically.
Yeah. And I love that idea, right? Like, I love this idea of like putting your house to bed. But in my mind, that meant my home is entirely clean before I go to bed. And then when I wake, because I have to wake up in the morning to a completely clean house.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh yeah. Oh no, like that was ridiculous. Like, why I ever thought that was possible,
Yeah.
and then I wasn't spending time with my husband in the evenings. We weren't connecting in the evenings. I would like rage clean, which I know that everybody knows what that is.
Oh, 100%.
100%.
My favorite.
Right? When you're like, I'm washing these dishes, clink, I'm washing these dishes. Like, hope your ice cream is good over there, right? Like, we have all been in that state of mind, right?
Yes.
And so, that's the approach that I was taking. Like, no wonder my husband didn't want to help. Like, he was like, clearly she needs some space, right?
Good
And
luck.
so, yeah. And so having that expectation for myself of like, I need to put my house to bed, which means everything needs to be put away and completely done. It was unattainable.
Yeah.
And as my husband as we were kind of talking through that and working through it, like I was like, okay, if we could just like start a load of dishes every night so that we wake up to clean dishes, like that's so helpful for me.
Yep.
That's so helpful for me. And we kind of got into this habit of him asking what's the bottom line, like one thing that I could do to make your life easier tonight? And it's always simple things that should take him no longer than 20 minutes.
If you take out the trash for me,
Yeah.
that's golden.
Yeah. Like take out the trash and wipe off or clean off the dining room table so that we can do school in the morning.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be something huge, but I think it made him more willing to want to ask when it was a simple task, when it was a little thing that I was asking instead of like, you need to work alongside me for the next hour and a half.
Wipe down the walls.
Yeah. But almost to adopt that practice of like, what's my baseline?
Yeah. You're like
What's like
floors and ceilings. Yeah.
yeah, what's the lowest level thing that can get done today for me to feel good? And for my husband to come and ask that of me too. Like, where do you want me? And sometimes it's, can you do dishes? And sometimes it's, hey, the laundry's been sitting for a few days. Could you fold that for me while I do this other thing,
Yeah.
And so I think, because I used to think, well, if you're lowering your expectations, like that's a bad thing. Like you don't have to have your expectations be low, but I think
it's very freeing to lower your expectations.
Yes. And depending on what stage you're in, like you're not going to be able to give your attention to everything. So what is the most needful thing that you need to give your attention to?
Exactly.
And can some other things run on baseline?
Yeah.
And it's okay if they do.
Yeah. Like I've gone through seasons where we literally just like have our laundry hucked in the bottom of my closet, and just like we're kind of pulling from there and, maybe we get to it and maybe we don't.
Yeah.
And, right now, since we have like our 2-year-old is the youngest. And so that's, we're not in like newborn phase. I've also loved the idea of putting my house to bed. And, that has been really helpful for me. For me, my like 2 things that are like have to be done is like we clean the kitchen, just, like wipe down the counters and start the dishwasher. But even vacuuming and mopping, those are like optional. If those happen, superb. But that's not like has to happen for me. And then I put in a load of laundry and move it along like right before I go to bed every day. And then in the morning, the girls wake up and it's part of their morning routine is to put away their laundry. And just, I think in the balance of Mary and Martha, it is really helpful to figure out what are those couple of things for you that are going to make a big difference. And I do think it is going to be different for all of us. My husband actually hates when the floors are messy. For him, if he was running the house all the time, that would be one of his things. He'd probably mop every single night. And sometimes he does. And it might be something as little as just making sure that you don't wake up in the morning to yesterday's dishes, because that can feel depressing. Or maybe it is just making sure that your family room is tidied up or your bedroom is tidied up. I always keep my bedroom clean, and my children aren't allowed in there. They can't go play in there. If I hear them in there, I'm like, hey, get out of there. Like that's my clean space. I've deemed that as like my area where like they can get the whole house messy. They can flip it around and go wild. But my bedroom is my space where I don't really want you to play. And just finding those little things can bring a lot of peace and help you focus on the things that matter more.
I totally agree. And sometimes like dropping your standards, right? Like not constantly having to be in this service mode or checking everything off your to-do list could be the kindest thing that you could do for yourself.
Yeah.
The most compassionate thing that you could do for yourself. especially if it's at the expense of giving yourself the space to invite a little bit more of and explore a little bit more of your side. Right?
Mhm.
Like that's a beautiful and worthwhile swap for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, definitely. And just like you talked about, really pouring into, our relationship with God and Jesus and our relationship with our spouse and our children. And like, when we slow down and really think about it, that's what we all want. If we think about our time in the evening and how we want our time in the evening to be spent, would we rather hang out with our spouse or be cleaning? Obviously, that's like an easy answer. And same, I often think about like how I'm going to feel when my children are grown. And like, I don't want them to remember me as just like constantly cleaning or like stressed about the house. It's like easy to know that that's what we want, but a little bit trickier to actually put into practice because it is important to have a clean home. You can't just not have a clean home.
If you think about the purpose behind why God gives us commandments, his purpose for giving us commandments isn't to give us do's and don'ts, right? His purpose for commandments is to keep us safe, to protect us, to give us the best possible chance to thrive, right?
Yeah.
Like I heard it put
Sure was.
yeah, and I heard it put that commandments are the cheat codes of life. And I was like, I love that definition. Like commandments aren't restrictive, it's a cheat code. Like it helps you get through levels faster with less pain and less dying. Like who doesn't want
Exactly.
cheat codes, right? Yeah, and
I
so
love that.
if you think about like the commandment, like to have a house of order, why would God command us
Yes.
to have a house of order? It's for our own protection.
Yeah.
It's for our own ability to thrive. Right?
Yeah.
It's such a blessing, and it's meant to help you thrive, right? It's not meant for you to beat yourself over the back or to be like, I suck at this, I'm terrible at this. It could be a process of you learning and everybody's definition of what a house of order will look like, right? But if it's a
Yeah.
house that you can function in, that makes you feel peaceful, that gives you the space to connect with God, right? The space to thrive both spiritually, mentally, physically, all of those things, which is what commandments are meant to do.
Mm-hmm.
What a blessing it is to have a house of order. And
Yeah.
that's something that we should strive for in whatever way we can.
I love that. That is all so beautiful. I 100% agree. I think the commandments are amazing. And I love the definition of cheat code. I think that Satan really tries to turn that on its head and twist it, just like you said, make it feel really restrictive and like God is more of a dictator. But when we understand the character of God, then we understand that all of this is for us and for our benefit. And God does nothing that is not for our benefit and out of love. I just have really enjoyed this conversation about all the different things. We've covered many things.
Garments, dishes,
Yeah, we're just all
so
over
many
the
things.
place. Life and death.
Yep.
And yeah, thank you so much for sharing a part of your heart with us tonight and teaching us. I think this gives us some really good things to think about with the Mary and Martha and gives us some better input and perspective on what those verses mean and how we can apply them into our lives. And I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for letting me be here. Like in creating, I don't know, like I love the name of your podcast, Mothering with Jesus. How beautiful. How beautiful. Yeah. Thanks for letting me be here and to share and to chat your ear off. And yeah, I loved it too. So thank you.
As always, I will have Markell's Instagram and information linked in this podcast. And you can always text the podcast with any questions. Feel free to leave us a review if you are loving this podcast. It means a lot. And I hope you come back for more.